to the Nightmare Realm. This is a podcast where we podcast about podcasting and about horror movies and about other things that I enjoy. What do I enjoy? Not very much. What do I know? Not very much also. That's why I have help. And by help, I mean the internet. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever Nightmare Realm podcast. I can't believe it, I've already lied. It's the second one. The first one kind of sucked. Kind of sucked mostly from an entertainment perspective. I did my research, I did what I needed to do, but I feel like I need a little bit more of a relaxed type of style in order to really let my talent at podcasting shine. So that's going to be how this one's going to work. Today's episode is going to be about a film that's very beloved to me. So ideally, it'll be an easy episode. It won't be one where there's going to be a lot of, scratching around for information or a whole lot of conflict between me and my co-host who has not joined yet and who might never join because I don't have a lot of friends, and the few that I do have very low confidence in me and my ability to create a podcast of any sort of quality or monetary value. But yes, today's episode will be about Steven Spielberg's 1975 masterpiece, Jaws. Now, Jaws goes back a long way. Of course, well, for me it goes back a long way. I've been watching it since I was a kid. At least I'm pretty sure. I have no memories before September 10th, 2001. So I can't really verify if Jaws was a huge part of my childhood. But I feel like it was, because I still have an ancient VHS copy of Jaws and a copy of every DVD of Jaws that's been remastered for every 10 years or so. They have a Jaws anniversary, and so for every one of those 10 years I have a DVD copy of Jaws. Now, Jaws, once again, very near and dear to my heart. Also a very popular film. However, if you haven't heard about Jaws before because you've been living under a rock or never seen a movie before, like maybe you've been maybe you're a refugee. I'm sure most refugees haven't seen Jaws. A refugee from any country where you have to be a refugee, you probably haven't seen Jaws. But that's okay, because I'm going to summarize it for you. So Jaws is a 1975 thriller horror film, of course directed by the great and not yet late Steven Spielberg. Very, very famous figure in filmmaking, Steven Spielberg is. You might know him from such films as E.T., Jurassic Park, War Horse, BFG, The Big Fucking Giant. He's made a lot of films, but one of his first films that really broke new ground and really put him into the stratosphere of filmmaking was Jaws, a film about a giant shark that eats people and then gets hunted down. And, I could leave the summary at that, but I think I can give a slightly more detailed summary. The film opens in 1975 on a little New England island called Amity Island. New England, for all of you who don't live in the United States, being the first place that English colonists touched down upon, other than Virginia. They could have called that New England, but instead they called New England the area around the states of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. Basically the little area in the northeast of the United States nearest to Canada. Yes, so Amity Island is a small island off the coast of what's most likely Massachusetts. The film was filmed in Martha's Vineyard, so it would make sense that it is a small island off Massachusetts if that was the setting that they were going for. And the film opens at night And really, the very first scene is underwater. It's from the shark's point of view. The shark is swimming around. You don't get to see the shark, but you see basically the view is from the shark's eyes. And, it goes through some seaweed and stuff. And the whole time, John Williams' famous soundtrack, if you haven't heard the soundtrack, then you must be deaf. You simply must be deaf, because it's been in every piece of pop culture from, late 1970s up to 2002, probably. I don't know if they use it that much anymore. But you know the soundtrack. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum 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 ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum 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 bum. It's great. Very intense, very good, very simple, but very effective. And so that's going the whole time. And it slowly crescendos until there's a scene on the beach, and it's a scene with a bunch of what we assume are teenagers or otherwise unemployed young adults, and they're all hanging out on the beach in front of this fire, and the two of them kind of make eye contact. There's a young woman named Chrissy, and then there's some dude who's, I believe, remains unnamed in the book, or in the film rather. And they kind of talk it up a little bit. They go walking along the beach. The dude obviously wants to bang, but Chrissy wants to go skinny dipping and swimming, just have some fun. And but the dude's too drunk. Chrissy isn't too drunk. She runs down the beach and jumps into the water and takes all her clothes off. The dude, he just eats shit down a hill and then can't get up because he's just too drunk, man. He's just way too drunk for that shit. And so he passes out on the beach while Chrissy goes swimming without him, which is kind of weird in itself. But she swims out for a little bit, and then she feels a tug on her leg or something. She gets all panicky, and then something beneath the water thrashes her around, and she tries to cling onto a buoy or something, but it doesn't work because, whatever's beneath her, it's the shark. It's the shark. Whatever's beneath her is too strong. So it drags her ass down, and we don't see anything from her again. Until the next day when it's daylight, and they find her body. They find her dismembered corpse up on the beach, just some parts, random body parts being eaten by crabs. They're like a hand with a ring. And that way we're introduced to our main character, Police Chief Martin Brody, played by Roy Scheider. Roy Scheider, before this role, had been more of an action star type. He had the very chiseled jaw, kind of steely eyes. But in this film, he plays kind of a more subdued character, more of a family man. He's still technically one of the stars, but he's not he's not just some macho meathead going around and shooting people and doing crazy things. He's just kind of a mild-mannered police chief. And so they find this body, and they're like, oh shit, that's bad. And they go back, and over the course of him getting back to his office, you kind of get an idea of what Amity is. And Amity's really just a very quiet little vacation island, basically. They have some year-round residents, and they're all elderly and, very elderly and, not used to any sort of real disturbance. When he gets back to his office, his secretary tells him about a woman who's called in about little hooligan kids stealing her fence or some shit like that. And that never really made a lot of sense to me. I mean, I knew that the 70s were a boring ass time, but I never thought that stealing fence posts was really part of the day-to-day activities of young hooligans back then. I think it would have at least been spray painting or something like that, but maybe they didn't have aerosol cans back in 1973 or 75 or whenever the film is set. But that's besides the point. Either way, it's supposed to be just kind of silly, nothing problems that would be becoming of a small town police force that doesn't usually have any issues. And so what happens from there is, Chief Brody calls into the medical examiner. Um, the medical examiner takes a look at it, and they think it might be a shark attack. He talks to the mayor, and the mayor, he's played by some old dead dude who I didn't really research before this, because this is a demo and this isn't all that important as far as the research goes. If you're listening to this, it's really just to get kind of a feel for what the podcast is going to be about. And on this second iteration, I finally realized that. So the mayor, he's just some old wrinkly fucking businessman goofball. He's there to make as much money for the town as possible without a lot of trouble. And so he's basically just there to kind of block any attempts to make the situation better. He doesn't want to close the beaches. He takes Chief Brody out on a ferry and tells him, "Look around. We're a summer town. We need summer dollars." And meanwhile, Chief Brody's just like, "Oh shit," because he's watching these Boy Scouts do their annual swim across the harbor, which already looks terrifying to me. I sink like a stone in the water. I don't swim very well at all. So already terrifying to me that these kids are trying to swim 2 miles. That's insane. Let alone with a shark already in the water. Ridiculous. But yeah, Brody's looking at that and he's like, ugh. And the mayor's just like, summer dollars, summer town, money, not closing beaches on the 4th of July. And so, they don't close the beaches. And a little while later, the shark devours a young boy alive in front of his mother on the beach. And that really gives the whole town a kick in the ass, because everyone sees this. It's not just some hippie chick getting eaten in the water and, drowning and not seeing him. This very much shows that it is, in fact, a shark attack and not a boating accident like the politically connected coroner tries to tell Chief Brody in the movie. Yeah, really, this kicks the town into gear. They a bunch of fishermen, they all set up a bounty for the shark. And so a bunch of local fishermen trying to go and catch it and kill it. During this process, we're introduced to Quint, the third main male macho hero character of the film. And he's there. He comes into the town hall meeting, and he scratches his nails down the chalkboard, which is a horrific sound. They made it way too loud in the film. It hurt my ears, but it definitely got your attention. But yeah, you get the idea that he's just a crazy old bastard, because he comes in and he's like, "I'll find the fish for $3,000, which is the bounty that they put out, but I'll catch him and kill him for 10. So he wants $10,000, which I believe in 1975 is roughly $3.5 billion. So he's asking for a lot out here. He's asking for a good bit of money. Might not be $3.5 billion, maybe more like 2, but either way, it's a large sum of money, especially for the time. And so it kind of continues on. They don't take Quint up on his offer because they're like, fuck that guy. He's crazy. What's his problem? $10,000? That's like $2.5 billion in 2023 time. I don't believe they say that in the movie, but they might. I haven't watched the movie in a while. Anyway, all these local fishermen, they go out and they're doing stupid shit. They're throwing dynamite into the water next to other boats and trying to blow up the shark or scare it so they can harpoon it or hook it with their little fishing lines or whatever. And it sort of works. They do catch a shark. They catch a tiger shark, and we find out it's a tiger shark because when they bring it up onto the dock in kind of a gruesome scene where they have the shark hooked through its mouth and its ass with these big ass meat hooks, and we're introduced to Matt Hooper, an oceanographer who's brought in to kind of consult on the especially on the dead body and kind of the criminal aspect of it. Not the criminal aspect, it's a fucking shark. God damn it, I'm gonna have to cut that shit out. Fuck. Matt Hooper's there to consult on the situation, basically. He's there because he knows about sharks. And we find that out because he's able to identify the shark that these fishermen have caught is a tiger shark. All the fishermen, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're like, it's a mako. Oh, that looks more like a porpoise to me. And he's like, shut the fuck up. It's a tiger shark. And they almost get into a fight. Which is, kind of makes sense because Matt Hooper is played by Richard Dreyfuss, arguably one of the biggest pain in the asses of film. Allegedly. I wouldn't know. I certainly wouldn't want to get in any trouble with his estate, even though he's still alive. So I guess I don't want to get in trouble with the man or his estate if he's dead. I don't really know. I didn't do a lot of research on Richard Dreyfuss. He's not that important to this episode. Anyway, yeah, so he's there. He almost gets in a fight with some fishermen, and then he meets Chief Brody, and they're like, hey, what's up? And so they go into the morgue, and they look at the body together, and Matt Hooper is like, yeah, this shit, that's a big-ass mouth. That's way bigger than the mouth I measured on that tiger shark. This is a fucking great white. And so, they figure out it's a great white shark. It's a big-ass great white shark that's probably still out there because no one's caught a big-ass great white shark yet. So they go to the mayor, and they talk to the mayor, and they're like, Mayor, there's a great white. It's a great white, Carcharodon carcarius. I don't know if they get the Latin right. I'm not very good with Latin myself, personally. It's a dead language, so, not a lot of places to learn that other than a church, and I'm not allowed back at those. So I don't really know, but it didn't sound quite right. But he says, Carcharodon carcarius, a great white. And the mayor's like, I'm not closing the beaches on the 4th of July. And they're like, shit. Well, whatever. This is on your hands. And 4th of July comes around, and everyone's on the beaches. To the mayor's credit, they did put a lot of, they put a lot of people with guns on boats out there. Probably some police officers, some Coast Guard. There's various people with guns and boats to make sure that the shark can't get to the main beach. But what they fail to guard is the estuary. And so that's where we get the third attack of the movie, where Michael Brody, the chief's eldest son, he's out there on a boat with his friends in the estuary because his dad thought it would be safer there. And also in this estuary is some random dude in a rowboat. I have no idea what he is. I don't know if he's supposed to be a lifeguard or something, or if he's supposed to just be some drunk dude, or just like a maritime pervert, perhaps. But he comes up to these kids and he's like, "Hey, kids, get out of there. It's not that safe." And during this time, some girl, she sees the shark swimming into the estuary because it's a fucking massive shark with a big fin swimming into the estuary. And she's like, there's a shark. A shark. She doesn't even seem that enthusiastic about it, which is probably why all the boomers on the beach don't really pay attention to her. Also because she's young and kind of looks like a hippie. And I guess people still didn't like hippies back in the 70s. So it was like, whatever. Like, shut up. No one cares. What are you, crazy? Go smoke another doobie. Get out of here. And she's like, no, it's a shark. And then she kind of gives up. And the shark makes its way into the estuary. And it gets in there and it knocks the two boats overboard. It overturns both of the boats because it's a big-ass shark. And yeah, and so everyone gets knocked out. The shark goes right past the kids, and it catches the random dude who may or may not be a pervert as he's trying to get back into his boat, and it drags him down. And then you get an iconic shot of his severed legs sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Pretty nasty, but pretty cool as far as horror scenes go. And it goes back past the kids again. All the kids leave little Michael Brody. Michael Brody goes into shock. His friends all swim away and leave his ass there by the overturned boat. And so he sees the shark and he goes into shock. And yeah, overall pretty terrible stuff. They're able to get him back to shore. They revive him on the shore. And Brody's pissed. He's like, close the beaches, hire Quint. And the mayor's like, okay, I'll close the beaches and I'll hire Quint. because at this point he's given up. He's been made a total fool throughout this entire situation. So it's over for him. He's got to hire Quint. Okay, so I had to pause and continue this track in the future. I'm glad you all got to time travel with me to whatever day this is. So where we left off, the dude in the rowboat had just been killed, and Chief Brody's son had gone into shock. Just a terrible thing, and so the mayor finally gave in and decides that they'll hire Quint. And so, as you might have already known, Quint is a crazy local fisherman who had barged into a town hall meeting, demanded $10,000 to kill the shark. And so I guess that he's going to, they decide to finally hire him. And so he and Brody and Matt Hooper meet up at his weird shack where he has a bunch of shark jaws boiling and like he's making his own brandy and shit. Apparently the brandy tastes like shit too, because they all taste and they all wince. So it's just basically just moonshine. And he has, in the background, he has just the grimiest looking dudes loading shit onto his boat, which is also covered in shark jaws, and is called the Orca, which is a funny little play on words because the orca is the main natural predator of the great white shark. And so some of the stuff that they're putting onto the boat is Matt Hooper's equipment. And, Quint kind of bitches about this because he doesn't want to have a bunch of extra stuff on his boat. But Matt Hooper's equipment includes a disassembled shark cage, which is a bit of foreshadowing, and some oxygen tanks, which are even more foreshadowing. But those don't really come into play until later. Immediately, Matt Hooper and Quint kind of get into an argument, and they get into like this weird dick measuring contest, or Quint's like, you got city hands for cutting money and doing shit and fucking kitty scissor something. He says some bizarre phrase like kitty scissor something cutting up with a paper doll. And I guess he meant like kitty scissors, like his hands are like soft and like it couldn't handle any real man's work or something. And Matt Hooper gets pissed about this and he's like, fuck you. He doesn't say that, but it's something to that extent. And Brody's like, oh, Jesus, these guys. This is going to become a real problem on the boat later, I'm sure. And it does. They're all kind of immediately distrustful of each other. I mean, Brody likes Matt Hooper all right because they've kind of... They had like dinner together and stuff and talked about sharks and things like that. But... yeah, neither of them really trust Quint, and Quint definitely doesn't trust Hooper. So they're just the three on the boat together, and Quint's basically just treating them like crew. Like he's making Brody throw chum in the water, and he's making Matt Hooper like tie knots and shit, and being just really condescending. And they don't end up seeing the shark until like a day in. But when they do, they're all like, oh, shit, because this is a big-ass shark. Hooper identifies it as a 20-footer. Quint says 25. I guess they're supposed to kind of just believe Quint because he's been sharking for longer. But I don't know. Either way, it's an enormous shark is the point. And that's when they first see it, or rather when Brody first sees it, he utters the famous line, "You're going to need a bigger boat," to Quint, because the shark is like half the size of the boat. And so basically Quint's shark hunting method is that he has a harpoon gun, and the harpoon is attached to a rope, which is attached to some big yellow barrels, and it's designed so this harpoon sticks in the shark, and then the barrel gets pulled off the boat, and it floats, and that keeps the shark near the surface. So it can be either harpooned again or tire itself out, or otherwise, just get exhausted and drown or something. And but that doesn't work too easily on this shark because it's so big. Quint fires a harpoon into it. Later on, Brody fires a bunch of rounds into its head. It doesn't do anything. Shark's skin is too thick and it's just too big and doesn't really just doesn't want to go down. And so the shark gets away with one barrel on it. Later that night, they all get drunk together and kind of become sort of friends and talk about battle scars. And that's when the famous USS Indianapolis monologue comes in, where Quint talks about his time on the USS Indianapolis in World War II. The Indianapolis, of course, is the famous World War II ship that got torpedoed in the Pacific and sent around 1,200 Navy sailors into the water, or they drifted for days and days because they hadn't had time to send a rescue signal or like an SOS or anything. And so they just stayed out there, and a bunch of them starved to death or died of thirst. The wounded got picked off by a bunch of sharks, and so that's really what Quint dwells on. He dwells on sailors being, slowly picked off by sharks until eventually they get picked up by a rescue plane. But by then, only like a couple hundred were left out of the 1,000 or so that went into the water. So it's a very eerie story. John Williams' score kind of picks up, and it's all eerie strings and woodwinds in the background while Quint does his monologue. It's a very cool scene, very iconic in the horror world, and it's pretty cool. Then they go back into being all goofy and stuff. They start singing a sea shanty. But then the shark attacks the boat by ramming it, I guess. Sharks, as far as I know, can't swim backwards, but apparently this one was just headbutting the boat, backing up, then headbutting it again, because it was like going at a good clip. It was like bang, bang, bang. And I don't really understand how the shark was supposed to do that. It was supposed to be like, backing up, and the boat's moving too. So it's like, is the shark going in, bang, back up, bang? The sharks can't back up. So maybe it was swimming around in a circle. It came around in a semicircle, bang, around in a semicircle, bang. But either way, it doesn't make that much sense. But the shark puts a bunch of holes in the boat, and so it starts to sink. And Quint tries to drunkenly shoot at it with his rifle, and that doesn't really work. So the shark escapes again, and they have to kind of patch up the boat best they can. Next day they put more. They put another barrel into the shark, or another 2 barrels actually. But the shark's still too strong. Ends up they try and tie it to the boat. Or they try and use the ropes to tie it to the boat, and the tears the cleats off the boat because it's so strong. It starts pulling the boat in the opposite direction that they want it to go, and rips the cleats right off. Almost kills Matt Hooper because he gets a rope tied around his legs, and so overall failure. The boat gets filled with more water. The engine gets flooded. And so they're getting really, really fucked up now. And and so Quint starts to go even more crazy. He breaks their radio so Brody can't call for help and, get the Coast Guard out there to get them out of the water. And, and then Quint decides that the best thing to do would be to lead the shark back in, because this time the shark isn't going away. The barrels keep popping back up just a short distance away, and they know the shark's hunting them now. And so Quint starts to pilot the boat towards the shore. He says something about drawing him in and drowning him, but he doesn't sound too certain about it because he's obviously losing his shit. He's never had this happen before with a shark, and so he's kind of losing it. But he's got this kind of like Captain Ahab versus Moby Dick type of obsession going on, and so he just full throttle on the boat, even though the engine's kind of fucked up already, and eventually it just burns out the engine and it blows up, and then the shark just kind of goes underneath them, and so they're left sinking, slowly taking on water, and so finally they decide to go to the last resort, which is use Matt Hooper's cage and his oxygen tanks, which are really for his scuba suit. And so his plan is to go into the into the shark cage and use a little dart gun with a poison dart on the end to shoot the shark in the mouth so it'll get poisoned and then die. But yeah, no, the other two thing, that's probably not going to work. It's too big. But Matt Hooper's pretty confident about it, and they don't really have any other options other than just try and swim for it in the water where the shark is, which is a much worse idea. So they put him in Matt Hooper goes in the cage. They winch him down. He's down in the water. The shark attacks the cage, smashes the shit out of it. Hooper escapes by swimming down to the bottom into kind of a reef area. And the Quint and Brody managed to winch the cage back up, and the cage is just destroyed, so they think Hooper's dead. And so they just let the cage go, and like a couple seconds later, the shark leaps up out of the water and smashes down onto the back of the boat, tips the whole boat backwards. Quint gets his ass tipped down, God damn it. The boat tilts backwards. Stern side is in the water. Shark's at the end of the boat, right on the stern, with its mouth open, going nah, 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 nah. It's a big robotic shark. In the movie you're supposed to think it's a real shark, but it kind of becomes more obvious that it's out when it's out in broad daylight that it's a big robot shark or a big puppet or something. And Quint slips and he slides down the wet deck right into the shark's mouth, and he tries to stab it with a machete, but once again, shark's too big, his machete's too small, and so he gets chewed right through the middle and goes, ah. And so it's all very intense, and the shark kind of slides back into the water with Quint in its mouth. And Brody's freaking out. He thinks everyone around him is dead. The boat's sinking. He goes into the cabin, which is already at the water level. The shark breaks into the cabin through the window and smashes through the glass. Brody takes one of the oxygen tanks and tries to beat the shark with it, and in the process throws it into the shark's mouth. And so the shark kind of backs off, and Brody climbs up out of the cabin. He climbs up onto the main mast of the boat, and he climbs up to the very top of the rifle. And he knows that the high-pressure oxygen in the tank is explosive, and so as the shark comes in for a final charge, he tries to shoot it in the mouth, shoot it right in the tank, and eventually he gets it and blows the shark up. Woohoo, victory. He slowly sinks back down to the water, grabs onto one of the barrels from the boat, and kind of lashes it to some wreckage. And Hooper comes back up after all this time. He's like, hey, did you get him? And Brody's like, yeah, I got him. Hooper's like, great. Quint? And Brody's like, nah, he's dead. He's a dead old crazy bastard. And they're like, ha ha ha. And then they kick off into the sunset. And that's how Jaws goes. Now, there's a lot of reasons to love this movie. I know I love it for kind of the straightforward, no fat type of streamlined plot, no pun intended. A lot of other people like it for that. They love it for the performances, especially by the three main character actors: Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. Each of them are great in their own right. Roy Scheider, he's playing kind of more of a reserved character than usual. While Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss kind of take the main focus of the film towards the end, with Matt Hooper being all like snarky and Quint being crazy, but still sort of likable in a way, but still kind of a crazy asshole. And they really just the chemistry works so well together, especially in the second half of the movie. The first half is just like a perfect tension building masterpiece, partially by accident because the robot sharks that they used were so broken that they could only use it they're only able to use it for a couple takes, so they really had to make those takes count. So for the rest of the time it was all just atmosphere and music, and you hardly ever got to see any of the shark. And yeah, but all of that together made just a very very menacing, thrilling type of film. Um, of course, Steven Spielberg and John Williams both went on to make just great films and great soundtracks. But this was kind of where one of the places where they both got their start as like real stars of Hollywood. And yeah, it's overall just a great film. One of my personal favorites. It's a classic. I guess I kind of spoiled a lot of it there with the summary, but it's like a 50-year-old movie. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like 50 years old in 2 years. So if you haven't seen it, and why are you listening to this episode? Why would you even listen to it if you didn't already kind of know what Jaws was about? You trying to hear like a recommendation for a movie that's 50 years old? Oh man, coming up, I just found out about this new movie, Jaws. Did you know? This isn't TikTok, dude. Okay, this isn't TikTok for like 13-year-olds where they're finding out about things from like 20 years ago and be like, whoa, holy crap, this is as good as freaking Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, no. This is a podcast. You saw the title, and you need to know that that's what's going to happen. So if you haven't already seen the movie, go see it, unlisten, forget everything I just said, and go watch it. Go watch the movie. Oh, man, you people. But yeah, so it's final segment here. I wanted to bring up kind of some of the real life influences on Jaws, because I find those always real interesting, especially with this movie. This movie had kind of a crazy backstory. A lot of the events of it are based off of a real string of shark attacks in New Jersey in 1916, known as the Jersey Beach shark attacks of 1916. Kind of a easy name, good fit for what happened. But yeah, 1916, at the time, people didn't really think that sharks in temperate waters would ever attack swimmers. And there wasn't a lot of shark research at the time, and so marine biologists, they were thinking that sharks couldn't bite through like people. Like they're like, even a 30-foot shark couldn't bite through the leg of a grown adult. Just like crazy stuff like that, and basically just discounting all the stories of fishermen and sailors and whatnot is just like, just old wives' tales, just old crazy fishermen's tales, and just not taking anything like that very seriously. And this came back to bite them in the ass, pun very intended. Ho-ho. 1916, when a young man visiting with his family in Jersey Shore got his leg all chewed up in the water, and he ended up bleeding out on the shore and dying. Later on, a Swedish bellhop, he was swimming around in the water. He was swimming pretty far out actually, and he got really fucked up. Like the shark came in and it bit him in the body, and then it let him go, and he tried to swim away, and then it came around and bit off both his legs and then a hand. And by the time that he'd gone to by the time he had gone to a boat that was trying to rescue him, he had lost both legs and his hand. And as he died, he apparently described what had killed him. And at this point, everyone's freaking out. The marine biologist who said that sharks don't attack people, they had discounted the first attack. They'd said that maybe it was just a big seagoing fish, or a sea turtle. They were really into the sea turtle theory for a while, because apparently sea turtles can get angry and aggressive, which is something I've never heard of. But, hey, I'm not the marine biologist from 100 years ago, so what do I know? But, yeah, anyway, this really confirmed that it's okay, it was a shark. The dude described a shark. He's lost all his limbs. This is terrible. You can't have this. Yeah. And so there a big frenzy of different measures to deal with this problem come up. Just like in the film Jaws, a bunch of local fishermen get together, and not even local fishermen, really fishermen from all along the coast, all along of the coast of New Jersey and the East Coast. They're all trying to find this shark, this man-eating shark, and they put up steel nets around the swimming areas, and they encourage beachgoers to stay behind the nets. Just like in Jaws, they don't ever really close the beaches. 4th of July goes off without a hitch, so at least they got that. But then, a short while later, all of this happened between like July 1st and July 12th, by the way. So a crazy amount of attacks in such a short amount of time. And so shortly after the 4th of July, some boys are swimming in the estuary, or really more like in the creek, like kind of way upstream from the estuary, like a couple miles up or something like that. And they end up getting attacked by the shark. One of them gets dragged under, and his friends all run away and tell the adults. And one guy, a local businessman, he tries to jump in to either save the boy or recover his body. And he does find the boy's body, but while he's bringing it back in, the shark comes back around and bites him in the leg, and he ends up bleeding out and dying in the hospital, but that puts it up to 4 dead from this shark in like 10 days, which is insane. And yeah, and so it's just a horrible situation. There's one more attack on July 12th, I believe, 1916, and it's a teenage boy who gets bit on the leg, and his brother and his friend end up kind of getting in a tug of war with the shark, and pulling him out of the water. And so, I mean, already just from that, you kind of get the idea that this isn't a huge shark here. Like, if 2 other teenagers were able to pull this dude out of its mouth, then probably isn't like a enormous Jaws-sized shark, but still deadly enough to, bite some big chunks out of you and, put you in a world of hurt. And after that, the attacks largely stopped. Eventually, a taxidermist, a New Jersey taxidermist, is able to pulls in a shark on his boat and ends up killing it with an oar. And they when they dissect the shark, they find some human remains in it, and they determine, all right, this is the shark here. They claim it's a white shark, but the remains ended up being lost to time, so it was never really confirmed. It also wasn't confirmed whether this was the only shark that was attacking people, or even if this was the same shark that they were looking for. But the attack stopped afterwards, so it can be determined that at least someone somewhere got the shark, or it just got bored or tired of eating people and went away. But yeah, a lot of parallels between that historical event and the movie. It's kind of crazy. That really, that one summer really just set our whole cultural understanding about sharks into motion. They went from like kind of, I don't really know about sharks and I don't really care, to, oh, sharks are man-eaters and they're going to eat us. And yeah, that was partially what inspired the film, especially, as well as the novel by Peter Benchley, which the film was based upon, if I haven't said that already. And another major influence for the book, especially, was this famous shark hunter. This famous shark hunter was named Frank Mundus, and Mundus was he's a very Quint-like figure. He's a shark fisherman. He'd been around for a long time. He was born in 1925, and he was active in shark fishing and through the 50s and 60s. And he was known as being a very kind of standoffish type of crotchety fellow. He used a lot of kind of unorthodox methods for shark fishing, like using chopped up sea creatures to chum the waters and stuff like that. Um, Instead of a harpoon gun, he tended to chum up the waters and either hook the shark and then harpoon it with a big handheld harpoon, or otherwise harpoon the shark when it got close to the boat. And through this process, he was able to catch a 4,500-pound great white shark, he claims. The weight was never actually totally verified, so it was a bit of, you had to have a little bit of faith in this guy and his claims. But there was a verified 3,000-pound great white shark that he did also catch with a rod and reel, which is basically just a regular fishing pole. So that's pretty crazy. But one thing that I found when doing my very loose research into this topic was that Frank Mundus still has a website, which I think is pretty funny, because he's basically like a historical figure. But I guess that sometime in the early 2000s, I believe the copyright is from the year 2000 to 2014. And so either he managed to make the website, or he hired someone, or some family member of his made this website for him. It has a bunch of pictures of him, quote unquote young, and also a lot of them while he's old. I say young, quote unquote, because he still looks like a fucking wrinkly, like fucking leather baseball glove, even in this photo from like 1960s. Like, he's supposed to be 25. Yeah, he would have been like 39 then, but he looks like already like he's like late 50s, early 60s. And then I guess he kind of figured out the aging process as he got older, because then he looks kind of more normal as he gets older. I guess that's what happens when you stop doing fucking shark fishing on the ocean full time. But yeah, 1925 to 2008. He has a frequently asked questions list, and I imagine he really did type out these answers himself, because it sounds like that type of dude. A lot of different questions here. Why did you start shark fishing? Started shark fishing as a joke and called it monster fishing to attract customers. What did you think about the movie Jaws? It was the funniest and stupidest movie I've ever seen, because too many stupid things happened in it. For instance, no shark can pull a boat backwards at a fast speed with a light line and stern cleats that are only held in there by 2 bolts. And I've never boiled shark jaws. If you do, you'll only end up with a bunch of teeth at the bottom of your bucket because the jaw cartilage melts. And so that was kind of interesting for me when I found that out, because there was no other source that kind of mentioned some of the various plot holes in the film, and they got pointed out by this weird old fisherman dude. It was like, you don't boil shark jaws because the cartilage will melt. And I guess that kind of makes sense, because the cartilage is softer than bone. I don't know exactly if it's going to melt. I don't know if he actually tried this, or if he just thinks that this will happen when you tried it. I don't think a lot of people have tried boiling shark jaws. But, if they have, maybe it doesn't work. But it's kind of funny, because a lot of these answers are just like blunt with no details. Like, were you on the USS Indianapolis? No. Did you have a lot of close calls with sharks? I had a lot of close calls. Probably too many close calls. I was lucky and didn't have any injuries. The only accidents happened my boat happened to customers and were not shark related. There were 2 broken ankles and some fish hooked fingers. That makes it sound like I don't know. I wouldn't go on his boat if there were, accidents happening on these charters. You get I guess people like slipped. Like, people slipped and broke their ankles. I guess the fish hooked fingers kind of makes sense. I've gotten a fish hook to the finger before. Hurts like a motherfucker. But like broken I don't know, dude. I wouldn't trust this. I wouldn't trust this guy off the coast of Montauk, New York, or where did he start? He started off Long Island, New York, and I guess they kicked him out or something. But yeah, just a lot of like weird, short, blunt answers. What's the strangest thing you ever found inside a shark's stomach? A bunny rabbit. What? No details, no further. He's dead now. We'll never get any further explanation for that. maybe if I ever have any guests on this podcast and I find his wife and invite her to come onto the podcast and she agrees, so maybe I'll ask her about the bunny rabbit and she'll be like, "What? Why are you talking about that?" And I'll ask, "Did your husband ever kill anyone? Was he in the war? Was he on the USS Indianapolis?" And she'll be like, "No, stop asking me these silly questions. Who are you?" And she won't get an answer. But yeah, he's seems like an interesting guy. He has a whole website. There's multiple pages of this website. The last post, I believe, is in 2008 when he died. So I guess, yeah, Jenny Mundus. I don't know if Jenny Mundus is either his wife or his daughter. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of sweet, though. Wherever he is right now, he would want to continue aggravating his customers and fans. And so unsigned book copies of Frank's books and t-shirts will be available for purchase here online. And so that was from 2008. 2013, there was another brief post that was some book by a guy named James Brown called Discovering the Real Captain Quint on Long Island. Checking this link. It's on some magazine page, but then there's nothing there. So I don't really know. Yeah, that page can't be found. So that page is dead. And that was already, that's the most recent thing on that website, and that's already from 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Yeah. But he has some weird shit on here. He has an online shop. I have no idea who would be buying this stuff online. The top of the page has like a little looping gif of a animated shark just going around in a black void. Just a square black void, and this shark loops out of frame and then comes back in. And it really makes me wonder who made this website, or if Frank Mundus really got into like HTML late in life. But yeah, I think almost all of these links are dead. Dead link. Montauk Monsters, dead link. Land and Sea. Oh, they still have Land and Sea, I guess, still has some stuff to sell. It's all like weird old people's like garden decorations. They got gnomes. Oh man, I don't think they have a lot of Frank Mundus merch anymore. Buy taxidermy fiberglass fish at wholesale prices. I don't think I will. Yeah, interesting stuff. There's also, what else was there? He also had he has a pet pig. Blue shark recipe. I guess he cooks sharks too. Oh, this dude is weird. Was weird. R.I.P. Weird, but interesting. Where was it? I thought I saw he had a pet pig. He had to have a pet pig somewhere. I think it was in the questions. Yeah. Do you have any unusual pets? Arnold Bohr. That's the answer to question 18. Do you have any unusual pets? Arnold Bohr. And it's a link to a little fan page about his 500-pound boar that he has as a pet. And it's 13 years old as of whenever this page was made. Apparently he has an email. I don't think there's no way. There's no way. F Mundus at Bizland. Okay. Yeah, I think there's no way anyone's monitoring that email anymore. Maybe I'll check it out later. Maybe I'll send him a quick message. See if anyone picks up. But yeah, apparently he's 500 pounds, 13 years old, so most likely dead at this point. R.I.P. to Arnold Bohr. They apparently like to feed him peanuts, oranges, and apples, which makes sense. The beverages are a little weirder: Gatorade, Pepsi, or soda. I don't know. I guess pigs can eat that sort of stuff. I don't know if I would recommend that for my own pet pig, but then again, I don't have a pet pig, so I'm sure Frank Mundus knew more about taking care of domesticated pigs than I do. Unusual talents include chewing gum, drinking soda from a cup, eating dog food from off of a spoon. I don't think these are really unusual or a sign of talent. personally. I know I can chew gum. I think most things can chew gum. Drinking soda from a cup, I've done that plenty of times. Eating dog food from off of a spoon. I've eaten dog food. I haven't eaten off of a spoon yet. Seems a little bit gross, but like I don't know. I feel like I could easily be I could be the next Arnold Bohr if I really put my mind to it. But it's not my prerogative to become this old fisherman's pet pig. So at least not right now. I think I have other career options at the moment. Oh man. This dude, he looks like my grandpa. Almost looks photoshopped. This picture of this pig in front of this shirtless old man. Very strange. Very strange stuff. Oh, God. What else? Is there anything else? I don't know if I had that much else to talk about. I'm kind of glad this one went a little bit shorter. This version of this demo went a little bit shorter than the other one. And I'm kind of happy about that. Probably in the future there will be less summary, but especially less summary of the movies. Probably just going to go straight into talking about it and then, give a recommendation or not. As you know, my recommendation is always to watch Jaws. It's a great, great film, and I'm saying that completely unironically, which is one of the few times I'm going to say that you really should watch Jaws. It is actually a great film. And a lot of weird stuff. A lot of weird stuff in the background. There are a lot of things I didn't mention. I didn't mention as much about the book in this version of the demo. That's because I didn't really read the book, and I don't really know what happens. I just know kind of based on. I just remembered that the first couple pages had already, like immediately in the first chapter, there was a little like side anecdote about a woman who went off and cheated on her husband with her gardener, who was a black man, and they just called him her Negro gardener, and immediately that kind of just turned me off of the book a little bit, because why would I read a book that calls a black gardener a Negro gardener and then makes it part of the story? It's supposed to be about a giant shark eating people, but apparently there are a ton of subplots in the book. There was like the mafia trying to pressure the mayor to keep the beaches open. There was like, I don't know, all sorts of shit. There was like crime, murder. Matt Hooper fucks Chief Brody's wife. That's crazy, but also not something I really care to read about. I feel like that would have really ruined the camaraderie in the second half of the movie. So they cut it completely out of the movie. For that, I'm eternally grateful, because the movie's already like over 2 hours long. So if they also added a cheating subplot, and they added a freaking mafia subplot on Amity Island, which is just like a stand-in for Martha's Vineyard. I don't know when the mafia has been a big deal over on Martha's Vineyard, but maybe it was. Maybe they had a monopoly on the tourism over there, but either way, I don't really give a shit about that when obviously the main source of entertainment is supposed to be the shark. So I'm glad they cut that out in the movie. I don't know if I'll ever try and finish Jaws the book. It just doesn't seem like, it seems like from what I've gathered, the film is an improvement on it in every single way, at least plot-wise. So I don't know if I'm going to bother. Maybe I will sometime. But yeah, coming up on an hour here. There's probably not much more that I can say about Jaws that hasn't been said by about a million other people far more qualified than me, if not as skilled in the art of making podcasts as I am, or in the art of lying down and speaking into a microphone, kind of slouched with the microphone almost positioned on top of my face because I can't bother finding a table to put it on, or a real microphone stand or anything like that. But yeah, I think that's about as much analysis as I can take, and probably as much as you can take from me, considering I don't think I really said anything of substance. But that's fine. This has been a relatively successful demo from what I can tell. I think in the future there'll kind of be less plot summary and more more analysis, more delving deep into historical fact and fiction, and more finding old decrepit websites from the depths of the internet that vaguely relate to things I'm talking about. Hopefully more stuff like Arnold Bohr and Frank Mundus and eating dog food off a spoon and shit like that. So hopefully more bullshit. More bullshit is more good, because that means I have more content, and it means I can make more podcasts. But yeah, more installments coming soon. I hope you all enjoyed, and if not, it gets better from here. So don't give up on me, or I'll be really sad. I'll be real disappointed, and I think you should be disappointed as well in yourself if you are willing to give up that easily. Anyway, signing off. See you later. More updates coming soon. More movies. More spooky stuff. More history. More dead people. See you later. Goodbye.